In the province of Laguna, midnight feels different. It isn't silent. It breathes. The crickets grow louder. The dogs begin to bark at things no one can see. Electric fans hum in dark rooms while families sleep under thin blankets, trying to ignore the heat that never quite leaves, even after the sun goes down. My name is Adrian Velasco, and this happened in 2021, when I moved back to our ancestral house in a small barangay near Calamba after losing my job in Manila during the pandemic. The house was old, built by my lolo in the 1970s. Wood floors, capiz shell windows, a long hallway that creaked even when no one was walking on it. Most nights were peaceful, until the knocking started. It was exactly 12:17 a.m. the first time I heard it. Toc, toc, toc. 3 slow knocks on the front door. I checked my phone. Shier dian chichifen. I frowned. No one in our barangay visits that late unless it's an emergency. I walked to the living room and turned on the light. The door was closed, the bolt locked. "Hello?" I called. No answer. I looked through the small peephole. The porch was empty, just the dim yellow bulb above the door flickering because of the unstable electricity. I waited for a minute. Nothing. I told myself it was just wood expanding from the heat. But the next night, at exactly 12:17 a.m., it happened again. Toc, toc, toc. 3 slow knocks. Not loud, not urgent, just patient. This time, our neighbor's dog howled immediately after. A long, painful howl that made the hairs on my arms rise. I didn't open the door. In the Philippines, you grow up hearing stories about the aswang that knocks softly before calling your name, about the kapre that lingers near old trees, about spirits that can't enter unless invited. I didn't believe most of them, but I wasn't stupid either. On the third night, I stayed awake on purpose. 12:15 a.m. I sat on the sofa, lights off, staring at the door. The electric fan spun beside me, pushing warm air around the room. Shier dian shilu fen. My chest tightened. Shier dian shichi fen. Toc, toc, toc. The knocks were clearer this time. Deliberate. Like knuckles on wood. Then something new happened. A voice. Soft. Adrian. My heart nearly stopped. It was my mother's voice. My mother was in Quezon City, hours away. Adrian, open the door. The voice sounded tired, weak. I stood up slowly. No, I whispered. The voice came again. Anak, please. It sounded exactly like her. But there was something wrong. My mother always calls me Ading, not Anak. I stepped closer to the door but didn't unlock it. I know you're not her, I said, my throat dry. Silence. Then the doorknob rattled violently. The knocking stopped. The entire house went quiet. Too quiet. Even the crickets stopped. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I told our barangay tanod about it. He laughed and said maybe someone was playing a prank. But no footprints were found outside the house. The ground was muddy from afternoon rain. There should have been marks. There were none. On the 4th night, I decided to test something. My Lola once told me that some spirit can't cross blessed salt. So before midnight, I poured a thin line of rock salt along the inside of the doorway. Shi er dian shi chi fen. Toc, toc, toc. This time, the knocks were harder, angrier. Adrian, the voice whispered again. But it wasn't my mother anymore. It was my younger sister, crying. Kuya, help me. I felt tears sting my eyes. My sister works as a nurse in Davao City. I knew she was safe. But the crying, it sounded real. I'm outside, it said. Please, it's dark. I forced myself not to move. The doorknob twisted slowly, then stopped. There was a faint sizzling sound, like something burning. And then, a low growl, not human, not animal, just deep and furious. The knocking turned into pounding. Bang, bang, bang. The entire door shook. The salt line trembled but stayed intact. Open it, The voice screamed, no longer pretending. It became layered, multiple voices overlapping. Male, female, child, all at once. "Let us in!" The lights flickered wildly. I grabbed my rosary from the table and started praying out loud. The pounding continued for nearly a minute, and suddenly, silence. The electric fan resumed its normal hum. The crickets came back. I stood there shaking for a long time. When morning came, I opened the door carefully. The salt outside the threshold was black, like it had been burned, and on the wooden door, 3 deep scratch marks, perfectly vertical, as if something with long claws had dragged them downward. That afternoon, I visited an elderly man in our barangay, known for dealing with things people don't talk about openly. He didn't seem surprised. "You never open the door," he said immediately. I didn't. He nodded slowly. "It's not just one spirit. It's something that wanders at midnight. It knocks to see who answers." "What happens if someone opens it?" I asked. He didn't respond right away. Finally, he said, "Sometimes they are found days later, sick, drained, or they disappear." I felt cold despite the afternoon heat. "What does it want?" He looked at me carefully. "An invitation." That night, I didn't stay inside. I went to my cousin's house across the barangay. I wanted to see what would happen if no one was home. At 12:17 a.m., from my cousin's window, I could see my house. The porch light flickered. Even from that distance, I heard it. Toc, toc, toc. The knocking echoed faintly through the quiet street. No one answered. The knocks continued for 5 straight minutes. Then, the porch light burst, shattered. Darkness swallowed the front of my house, and I saw something move. A tall shape, too tall, standing right at my door. It didn't look solid, more like a shadow pulled upward. It bent down slightly, as if sniffing. Then its head slowly turned, facing my cousin's house, facing me, even from across the street. I felt it. It knew I was watching. The shape straightened and began to move, not walking, gliding, across the street, toward us. I stumbled back from the window. My cousin asked what was wrong. Before I could answer, toc, toc, toc. 3 slow knocks on his door. At exactly 12:23 a.m., my blood turned to ice. It had followed me. "Kuya?" A soft voice called from outside. My cousin froze. That was his girlfriend's voice. She was in Cebu City for work. We didn't move. The knocks grew louder. The voice shifted, became deeper, twisted. "Open the door." We stayed silent. After a full minute, the knocking stopped. No pounding this time. No screaming. Just quiet. The next morning, we found 3 long scratches on his door, too. Whatever it wasn't attached to the house. It was attached to me. I returned to Manila 2 days later. Back to the noise, the traffic, the crowded streets of Manila. I now live on the 10th floor of an apartment building. Concrete walls, metal doors, security guards downstairs. But last week, at exactly 12:17 a.m., I heard it. Toc, toc, toc. 3 slow knocks on my apartment door, and a familiar whisper. "Adrian, I didn't move, because now I understand. It doesn't matter where you go. It only matters if you answer." Midnight in America doesn't feel the same everywhere. In small towns across Ohio, it feels heavier. The story I'm about to tell you happened in the winter of 2018, in a quiet town just outside Columbus. The kind of place where the biggest excitement is a high school football game, and the loudest noise at night is the wind brushing against frozen cornfields. My name is Carter Doyle, and I used to work the overnight shift at a 24-hour roadside gas station called Maple Mart. Midnight to 6 a.m. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid the bills while I finished community college. Most nights were simple. Truckers, insomniacs, teenagers trying to buy beer with fake IDs. But every night, at exactly 12:03 a.m., the phone would ring. The first time it happened, I didn't think much of it. It was a Tuesday, dead quiet, snow falling in thin sheets outside. I was halfway through a microwave burrito when the store phone rang behind the counter. I glanced at the clock. 12:03 a.m. I answered. Maple Mart, this is Carter. Silence. Not the normal kind. Not breathing, not static, just hollow. Then I heard it. A whisper. Can you see me? I frowned. Hello? The whisper came again, softer. Can you see me? I checked the caller ID. Unknown number. Look, if this is a prank. The line went dead. I rolled my eyes and hung up. Probably kids. There was a group from the local high school that liked to mess with overnight workers. But the next night, at 12:03 a.m., the phone rang again. And the next. Always 12:03, never 12:02, never 12:04. Every time, the same whisper. Can you see me? After the fourth night, it stopped feeling like a prank. The snow had piled up thick outside. The highway was nearly empty. I started checking the parking lot before answering. Nothing. Just the glow of the gas station lights reflecting off snowbanks. On the sixth night, I decided to mess back. When the phone rang at 12:03, I didn't say the store greeting. I said, yes. Silence. Then the whisper changed. Where am I? My throat went dry. What do you mean, where are you? I can't see, it whispered. It's dark. The voice didn't sound like a teenager. It sounded young. Maybe a girl, maybe early 20s. I swallowed. If this is a joke, it's not funny. The line clicked off again. I stood there staring at the receiver for a long time. The next night, I brought my laptop and decided to Google local accidents. I don't know why. Something in my gut felt wrong. That's when I found it. A news article from 2006. A car accident on Route 17, about a mile from the gas station. A college student from Cleveland had crashed into a snowbank after swerving to avoid a deer. The car slid off the road and into a shallow ditch. It was discovered days later. She had called 911 that night, but the dispatcher never picked up. The article mentioned the time of her last outgoing call. She had Yanling Sanfen. I stared at the name in the article, Marissa Hale, age 21. A chill crawled up my spine. The next shift, I tried something different. When the phone rang at 12:03, I answered and said, Marissa. Silence. Then, a sharp intake of breath on the other end. How do you know me? My heart hammered so loud I thought I might faint. Are you on Route 17? I asked, voice shaking. I'm cold, she whispered. It's so dark, I can't see. My eyes slowly drifted toward the front windows. The snow had started again, and for the first time, I noticed something I hadn't before. Footprints, leading from the highway toward the gas station. They weren't there 10 minutes ago. They were fresh, perfectly spaced, as if someone had just walked across the snow. But there was no one there. The phone crackled. I see lights, she whispered. The automatic doors at the front of the store slid open. No one walked in, but the bell chimed. My breath caught in my chest. I'm here, she said softly. The temperature inside the store dropped instantly. The fluorescent lights above me flickered. I could see my breath. Marissa? I whispered. Then I heard it. Footsteps. Wet. Slow. Coming from the entrance. But the floor was dry. I backed against the counter. The security monitor behind me showed the front aisle. Empty. But the footprints outside were getting closer. Step by step. Toward the door. The phone was still pressed to my ear. Can you see me? She asked. And that's when I saw it. On the security monitor. Behind me. A dark shape standing just inches away. I couldn't see a face, just a silhouette. long hair, head tilted. I didn't turn around. I couldn't. My body refused. The whisper was now right next to my ear. I've been trying to get someone to answer. The phone line went dead. The store lights shut off. Complete darkness. The only glow came from the security monitor screen. And on it, I watched as the shadow slowly raised one arm and pointed toward the door. The lights snapped back on. The store was empty. No shadow. No footprints outside. The snow was untouched. The phone was silent. I stood there shaking for what felt like hours. At 6 a.m., my replacement showed up. I didn't tell him anything. I just grabbed my coat and left. But I couldn't sleep. That afternoon, I drove down Road 17. I found the spot mentioned in the article. There was a small wooden cross by the ditch, barely visible under snow. Marissa Hale, 1985 to 2006. Someone had left a small solar-powered lantern next to it. It wasn't on. I stood there for a long time, staring at the ditch. It wasn't deep. If someone had found her sooner, she might have survived. That night, I went back to work. I don't know why. Maybe I felt responsible. 12:03 came. The phone rang. I answered. "I'm here," I said softly. Silence. Then the whisper, weaker than before. "I can't feel my hands." "You're on Route 17, I said. "You crashed. It's over." "No," she breathed. "I'm still waiting." I closed my eyes. "You're not waiting anymore," I told her. "You don't have to." The store lights flickered again. The air turned freezing. "I see the lights," she whispered. And then, nothing. The line went dead. The clock ticked to 12:04. The phone didn't ring the next night, or the next. It never rang at 12:03 again. 2 weeks later, I drove back to the cross on Route 17. The solar lantern was on, glowing softly in the dark. I don't work overnight anymore. But sometimes, when I wake up randomly in the middle of the night, I check the clock. And every once in a while, it says 12:03. And for just a second, I swear I hear a phone ringing somewhere far away.